So today we have Stephanie Zee from the Heath Network who is going to work us through the next hour. We'll do some community building at the end and then let you go. So please give it up and with a gratitude round of applause to Stephanie.
Thank you. I feel so fancy. Hi, everyone. So just like Emily said, my name is Stephanie Zee. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I work in the Heath Network, specifically the Health Education Prevention Services Office. We do a lot of educational outreach. My position is the coordinator of well-being, and the way I like to explain it is if you think about like crisis, mental health, well-being on a spectrum. We have on one end, people who are doing okay, flourishing, thriving, right? And then we have people on the other end who maybe are in crisis, struggling, thinking of suicide, etc. My position focuses on the middle. So I do a lot of educational outreach, providing information, trying to reach folks that maybe aren't sure, right? Because I think sometimes we question our worth of like, am I really enough? And the answer is yes. And so hopefully today you will all walk away with a new skill or a resource that you didn't know. So today's call is self-care through transitions. But before we begin, I do just want to acknowledge that there's a lot of hurt going on right now, not just locally, but right with our country, globally, etc. And so I had found this poem online, and I thought it really just kind of captured what we're all feeling. So it reads, "Later that night, I held an atlas in my lap, ran my fingers across the whole world, and whispered, 'Where does it hurt?' It answered, 'Everywhere, everywhere, everywhere.'" So I just want to share that because what we're going to talk about today, you also may be feeling what I'm going to talk about times 1,000. And that is because there's a lot of stuff happening all the time to us. And based on your social identity, right, who you are, how you show up, that's going to be even impacted greatly. So I just want to validate how you all are coming into the space today. So the intentions for today is that these tips are for you all and for you to help others. I don't believe in gatekeeping information. Spread that shit everywhere, okay? Let everyone know. Y'all are experiencing multiple stressors based on your life circumstances and identities. So again, right, validating where y'all are. And in case you haven't realized, we are somewhat still experiencing pandemic-ish things, whether we're coming out of a thaw, right? But we're never where we were pre-pandemic, and that really does have a big part of how we are coming in today. All right, so change just ahead. So this is the transition piece. What is the difference between change and transition? Don't pretend you don't see the answer up there. What is the difference between change and transition? Who wants to be brave and share? Change and transition. Everyone's like, avert your eyes, don't look at her. Yes, yes. Change would be a fast process and transition would be a little slower. Great. Anyone else want to add on to that? Later, yeah. Yeah, change is passive and transition, you're taking more of an active role. Those are all wonderful responses. Thank you so much. So yes, change is external, so it can be passive. It's an event or situation that takes place, right? So it happens quickly, and it just happens without you having to do anything. So for instance, moving, that is a transition, starting a new job, your boss leaves, staff changes, all that. Transition is actually more of a psychological process that we go through as we come to terms with the ending of a situation we were experiencing anew and we're heading into a new situation. Does that make sense? So change is like the event, and then transition is like this whole psychological process. And it really sucks, and I'll tell you why. So supporting people through transition is really key, right? We often, I think, especially as you go higher up in your role, it's like you don't have time for transition. You have to get going and get with it. And I will tell you that's really gonna mess things up because you have to process all of those feelings, emotions that come with it. And I'm sure you've all experienced some kind of transition, starting at CSU, starting a new job, moving, breakups. I'm gonna tell you my story, right? All those things. So here's a visual graph of transition. Transition starts with ending, which seems odd, but like I said before, it's the ending of what you once knew, the situation you knew. And then neutral zone is kind of the in-between of the situation you once knew, and you're heading into the new situation, and the new beginning is you're now fully into the change or new situation. So my example is in 2021, so right, we're getting out of the COVID thaw, I decided that I wanted to end my relationship. I'd been with this person for about 2 years, we lived together, we had 2 dogs, they were his, but really mine, right? You know what I mean? And so we lived in a house, right? All that thing. And I decided I wanted to end it. And even though I chose to end it, it was really sad for me because I thought, this would be my forever person. I wouldn't have to date anymore because who wants to date when you're 40? Not me, right? So all that stuff. And I knew I also had to leave the house because it was my house. I had to leave the dogs, which saying goodbye to the dogs is a lot harder than saying goodbye to my ex. Let's be real, right? And I had to leave the neighborhood community I made and go somewhere else. And so these emotions can be classified like this. So the ending, right? So I talked about sadness. There was anger too. Even though, again, like I said, I ended it, I was upset. Like, why do I have to move? Nobody likes you, right? Let me stay here. The dogs love me more, that kind of thing. So then we get into this neutral zone where there's feelings that come with confusion, frustration, resistance, etc. That was me when I was looking for a new place to live, right? I had never lived on my own. I didn't know how to apartment hunt here. And my rent was super cheap, and now I was gonna have to pay rent prices, right? Like, how I was gonna make it work? So I felt all of that. I was really angry. I was really frustrated. And then I got into the new beginning, and new beginning was when I moved into my apartment. I kind of started to settle. I bought plants because I don't have a TV, so I just talked to my plants, right? I could put things the way I wanted. And I got to be pretty excited about this space that I cultivated for myself. There were a couple of things my ex didn't like. He didn't like magnets on the refrigerator. When I moved in, I found my bag of magnets and I threw all of them up on the refrigerator, right? Because it's my place. He didn't like dishes in the sink, just stuff like that. But this became my space, and I got excited. So even though, there's still moments where I'm like, oh, I live by myself, but I like it. And it really took some time. So I hope you all can see kind of like how it went from an ending to the neutral to a new beginning and this roller coaster of emotion. And hopefully you all can tie in with yourself some experience of transition you've gone through or are going through. The thing is, transition is not a one and done thing. We go through it all the time. And it could be something minute, it could be something huge, right? But we are always going through it, and we always have to experience it. So how do we deal with transition? Well, one way is to feel your feelings. How many of you are like, feelings are gross, I don't want to feel them at all? How many of you are like, I feel my feelings all the time? Some people are like, I'm not going to answer this question. Okay, that's fine. I feel my feelings all the time. And I also understand, because I work with folks, that they don't want to think about their feelings or feel them because they're afraid what will happen. And I get that, because there could be right? They're like, I got a lot of stuff to do. I can't stop and cry. I can't do all these things. But feeling your feelings actually is really helpful. And it doesn't mean to be your feelings. It just means sitting with them. What is your body? Like, they're in your body. I read somewhere that stress is just emotion that hasn't been fully processed. So when you're suppressing your feelings and emotion, that will come out eventually in a manifestation of stress. So sometimes that quick 20-minute cry or vent or whatever, right, it can actually help for you to get through the rest of the day. So feeling your feelings is just kind of just sitting there and wondering, why do I feel angry? Why do I feel like I want to flip this table? Or why do I feel like this sudden urge of sadness? And maybe you don't know the answer yet, but you can begin to explore what's going on. And then lastly, we encourage you to find balance. And by finding balance, it's noticing what is good, what's new, what's neutral, and joyful in your life. Because finding gratitude and practicing it actually, in turn, helps your overall well-being too. All right, so here's another visual of transition. This is called the W curve. It's often used for folks who travel abroad. I think it's a great description for incoming students, but anyone really new to a situation, so a new job, right, etc. So we have the honeymoon stage, which is the new stage, which is like super exciting, right? So I think about for a first-year student, let's say, when they come here in the fall, everyone is all about them. I don't know, how many of you are students here? Do you recall your first year? Yeah, right? All these strangers came up to you and they're like, where do you live? I got your stuff. Let's carry your stuff there, right? And you're like, okay. Everybody's like wanting to introduce themselves. They're like, come with me, go to this dinner, come to this pep rally, whatever, And the whole 2 weeks, there's just like so much stuff happening because they are so excited you're here. And you feel like, yeah, I'm so glad to be here, CSU Ram. And then it all kind of dies away like 5th week, right? And that's kind of maybe final midterms, maybe first time paper. And that's where you experience cultural shock of like, holy crap, I'm here, right? Maybe you're not getting along with your roommate. Maybe you're like, man, I'm missing out on things back, where everyone else is, etc. So you experience a little bit cultural shock. But then you get over it, initial adjustment, and that could be like, you did fine on your midterm. You and your roommate patched up, right? You got over that, and you're like, yeah, I did it. Mental isolation comes a little bit longer. I often see it, especially for students during like October to November, because the only day off we have in the fall is Labor Day, and then we get nothing off until November. So usually by October, November, students are like just not doing great because they're really tired, right? They're feeling homesick. They're just sick of work, sick of school, etc. And so mental isolation hits pretty hard. And then acceptance and integration, I see that usually after students come back from break, they're feeling rejuvenated, but oftentimes at the end of spring semester, when they know what their major is, they now know where all their classes are, they know who they're living with next year, they've got their group of friends. So what I'm trying to say is that this is typical. If you're like, man, my experience here, whether you're a student or not, has been up and down, in some ways, it is typical, but also paying attention to some things should not be normalized, right? So we're gonna have a good day, we're gonna have a bad day. But if you're having consistent, mental isolation days, that's where we need to pay attention, and that's what we're gonna learn today. I did this presentation at the beginning of the fall semester for a group of students who then studied abroad in El Salvador for a week, and I went up to the staff member who was facilitating it, and I was like, hey, how's your trip? And then she was like, it's good. By day 5, they were really getting at each other, and they were like, I want to go home. And I was like, oh yeah, did they reference this? She's like, oh, totally. They were like, oh, where are we in the W curve today? And so I was like, yeah, so it works. So, but it's true, where are you, right? That could be a good thing to ask. So one of the ways to, so I mentioned it is typical for us to kind of go through ups and downs, and there's times when we have to ask, or we have to notice, this is not, it doesn't feel typical. And so feeling your feelings or emotions is, one way to do it is mindfulness. So it's trying to see emotions that are part of your experience, but they're not all of your experience. So letting yourself observe how your stories make you feel. So thinking about, if you felt a sudden urge of sadness, what was it, right? What was the thing that went through your mind? Was it something you saw on TV? Was it something you heard? For me, sometimes I feel an urge of sadness when I go through Instagram and I see videos of dads and their daughters, because I think my dad passed away in 2021. So that always kind of hits me a little bit. Or I just see just things like my dad would do, that always gets me. And so I just take a moment. So I practice this by just sort of pausing in myself and just recognizing yeah, it's normal. Your dad's not here. Of course you're gonna feel sad. And I just give myself a moment to let me have that. And then I kind of go on with my day. The other day I talked with a friend of mine on the phone, and she had shared with me her father passed. So we were talking about grief, and she hadn't talked to anyone. And after the phone call, I hung up, and I just burst into tears, because talking to her, while it was really helpful for her and helpful for me, it definitely made me relive the things toward my the stuff that I experienced. And I just had to sit and cry. I was meeting someone for lunch. She texted me, I'm here. And I was like, I'm gonna need a minute, So I'm sitting in this car crying, and I just had to. So that doesn't have to be your experience all the time, but that's just an example. So something to kind of take view of yourself is, how are you feeling? And I don't mean how are you feeling, I feel fine, but thinking about right now, I just invite you to you can close your eyes or just kind of stare off, but just as you were sitting here, where do you notice your shoulders? How do you notice your neck? How do you, how's your heart rate, your breathing? What are your hands doing? Are they in fists? What's your face doing? Do you feel hot, cool, clammy? Do you feel like you're moving in slow motion? Or maybe your brain is like soup. I saw a post today that said, my brain is soup. I was like, that's very much, right? Does your brain feel like kind of this muddled fog? You might be surprised to realize, wow, I've been holding a lot today in my shoulders. Like I didn't realize how high up they were, right? So that's just 1 minute of just kind of quickly scanning of like where you are. And that's an example of mindfulness. Mindfulness is non-judgmental in the present, right? Feeling of what is happening to you. So it's just acknowledgement of where you are. How many of you have ever driven somewhere and you didn't know how you got there? Yeah, so that's an example of not being mindful, right? Because you're on automatic pilot. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's kind of scary to realize I just drove from A to B and I have no idea what I saw. I didn't notice if there were any cars or trees, right? I just got here. How many of you have just, eaten a meal and all of a sudden you're like, I finished this meal? Like I didn't even realize it, right? I see some nods, some laughs. Yeah, that's another way. So practicing mindfulness isn't about meditation or yoga or anything of those things. Those things can work. But it could be simply when you drive home, pay attention to how many trees do I see? Like, how many streets? Do I pass any gas station? Like, I didn't realize once you leave this Prospect corner over where I work, there's really not a gas station for a little while. And I've definitely made some close calls. I'm like, I'm on E, so, right? So that's an example. Or when you eat a meal, don't eat in front of the TV or the computer or whatever. Actually focusing on what is it I'm eating? What's the temperature? Did it burn my mouth? Like, I have no idea, right? That's an example of mindful activity. We have a mindfulness group, and a lot of times students will choose things like, I'm going to mindfully make my bed, mindfully drink coffee in the morning, just sit and have a cup of coffee, stare outside the window. For me, I practice mindfulness when I have a cat. Her name is Alice. She's a tuxedo cat, and she does not like it when I'm on my phone. She'll tend to bite it and try to she'll sit in front of me so I can't use my screen. And I have practiced now when I'm lying and she gets on my stomach, I put my phone away so she doesn't do that. And I just sit and I just listen to her purr on my stomach. She likes to make biscuits on my belly. Sometimes it hurts a little bit, but right, I'm like, free acupuncture, it's great. So she just kneading in my belly. And that's a practice of mindfulness for me. So you all probably have different things if you have pets or friends or whatever, but those are some little examples we can do. Another way of mindfulness is practicing compassion, self-kindness. And so these are just some things to help with kind of managing those feelings and that stress. Is deleting an app you don't use, or maybe it's not helping you. That's why I don't have Facebook on my phone, because it's not. I often doom scroll or compare myself to everyone my age. Or I've worked with a lot of students, and I see that they're all like CEOs now, and I'm like, God damn it, right? So I just have to delete that. Muting a group chat. I have a group chat with some friends, work, BTS fanatics, and sometimes they just it's a lot. One time I looked, I had over 100 notifications. I was like, I got to turn you off. Saying no to other commitments is really hard. If you have FOMO, which is fear of missing out, that is me. I never want to say no. But I think COVID lockdown has helped me to say no, because now I just want to go home. So I'm like, I live in Loveland, I can't, and I just leave. Cutting down your to-do list, which is hard, right? If for those of us that are working all the time, it's hard. But here's the thing: your to-do list will always be there. Even when you finish it, you're gonna have something new. And so, can the thing wait till tomorrow? Probably, right? So keeping that in mind. Limiting your consumption of bad news. With all the stuff that's happening, bad news is everywhere. And it's easy to doom scroll and easy to kind of just fall into what's happening. And it doesn't mean ignore or put your head in the sand, but it just means maybe take a break, okay? So, how do you self-care? Self-care is not selfish. And self-care, what that means is I think we often use that term a lot, like, do you practice self-care? And when I was in grad school, I was like, what the hell is self-care? And for me, self-care is something you do to supplement your life, to help you to build up your resiliency, so that way whenever you face something, you're able to manage it, you're able to face it, and then manage, and right, instead of downward spiraling, right? So it gives you that resiliency, that grit to get through. And so what I love for you to do is turn to the people at your table and just share what are a couple of things you do for yourself, for self-care that you enjoy, that supplements your life. So just take a minute to do that at your table, and then I will ask for some volunteers to share what you do to self-care. Okay, let's come back. Also, I don't know if I made this clear. I'm sure Emily did, but like, if you need food, you gotta go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do, like, just you take care, right? That's part of this, like, taking care of yourself. So if you're like, I gotta make a call, just go. It's okay. Would anyone like to, well, not would anyone, will people share what you maybe share with others at your table? What do you do for self-care? You can shout it out, whatever. Everyone's like, yes. Do you boulder or belay? Yeah. I used to boulder, and then I had an accident at that rec center, like many years ago. I'll tell you that story. It was gross. Huh? Is it? Oh, I mean, it wasn't. It was an error. What is it, like, operator error? I fell and landed like half on the floor, half on a landing pad. So the weight distribution. Anyway, that's gross. I don't really want to talk about that. But yes, I had an accident. Great. I'm so glad you climbed. Anyone else? Anyone else? Wait, what? Exercise. What kind do you do? Cycling. Me too. But you go somewhere? I just stay in one spot. Okay. Right. Okay, good. Because when we say that, I'm like, oh, I don't go anywhere. I just stay in one spot. Yeah. Awesome. Great. Cycling. Anyone else? Physical activity? That's a big one. You can also just be like, no, I just walk from A to B. Right. That. If it wasn't for cycling, I wouldn't do much. But what else? It doesn't have to be physical. Yeah. You do? What shows do you watch? Bridgerton, yes. I was like, do you watch something with a cat for your cat? But okay, Bridgerton. So you watch Netflix? Anyone else watch a show? Maybe a guilty pleasure? Like, I don't want to tell people I watch this, but I watch it. My friend watches 90 Day Fiancé. He's like, I'm telling nobody, but I watch it. Anyone else? What else do you do for self-care? Yes. Yeah, so you get prompts and you journal. I love that. Are you a daily journal or just kind of like in the moment journaler? That's awesome. So that's like how you set your morning, your day with that intention. How long have you been doing that? 2 years? How many books have you filled out? Sorry, I didn't mean this to be an interview, but how many books have you filled out? Just two. But you know what? That's really cool to look back. I don't know. I look back and it's like cringe, like tastic, and I'm like, man, I really grew from that. Like, I survived that. I don't know about that's how I feel. What else? One more. What do you do for self care? That isn't yes. Yes. Put on some night. What kind of music do you like to listen to? Yeah. Not heavy rock. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. Sorry, yeah. Stitching and mellow music. And I was like, not heavy rock. And then that was a joke. But stitching. That's where work got. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wonder if people have an angry playlist. I have an angry playlist. I've definitely listened to it on the way to work. Some Papa Roach in there. Yeah. Yes. Oh, Shadow Room. Yeah. Yeah, they have old equipment you can break and stuff. Yeah. Awesome. Great. Well, so I love that you all do self-care. And again, I will tell you that self-care isn't selfish. Self-care also is simple. So it could be getting sleep, eating, not just eating healthy, but eating in general. How many of you skip meals when you are stressed? Yeah, I eat those meals for you. Thank you. No, just kidding. But you right? So skipping meals. How many of you skip sleep? I do. It's not good. As someone who's trying to be better about her sleep hygiene, I will tell you sleep is super important. But it's easy to not go to sleep. For me, is if I go to sleep and tomorrow comes, and I really don't want tomorrow to come, right? Because then I got to face whatever. But so that was something deep I had to explore. Also could be showering, right? Doing the things that you need to do. Those all could be self-care. When we talk about food, especially, I think this one I want to just really emphasize too. When we talk about eating, there's often this emphasis of like healthy eating, and I just want to say that is, you know yourself better than anyone, and how eating is works for you is going to be different than me. And so if eating a salad is something that's going to make you feel better, please do that. And if going to McDonald's is something that's going to make you feel better, do that. I do that, right? And what we're here about, and we'll talk more about this, is moderation. We're not here to judge your coping, but we're here to talk about moderation and balance. So if I'm going to McDonald's every day, that's something that I would want to examine for myself, because I'm probably feeling it in my wallet, and I also feel it physically, like, I start to break out, right? So it's just finding that balance. So this is a great quote. Self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. I often like to say self-care is the best middle finger you can give to people. Take what you want. Here's some questions to ask yourself, too, when you're feeling out of sorts and you're like, are you hydrated? I've never lived somewhere where water was like seriously like the elixir of life. Like everything is centered around water. I would say like, I have a headache. Did you drink water? I'm tired. Did you drink water? Everything is water. Have you had enough water? Oh, you haven't had water. That's why, right? So, everyone has a water bottle, but are you hydrated? That is a great question. Have you eaten something nutritious, again, needing for your body, in the last 3 to 6 hours? You can be surprised how far you've gone through the day and realize, I haven't eaten anything since whatever time. Have you stretched or moved your body lately? With the pandemic and lockdown, some of our jobs have shifted where we can work remote, where we can be just sitting at our desk. And that often means we've just sat there for the last however many hours. When's the last time you got up to move? My watch tells me it's time to stand up. Sometimes I say, shh, I don't want to, right? But how do you get yourself to move? And maybe your job is physical, so you don't have to worry about that. Did you sleep for at least 7 to 8 hours last night? Again, that is subjective. Maybe you don't need 7 to 8. I do 5.5 to 6, right? I try to do 7. Maybe you need more than 7 to 8, but did you sleep? Because sleeping, your body resets, right? Goes through REM. It's great. So 1.5 gives you 1 full sleep cycle. So just keep that in mind. Have you had a shower in the last 24 hours? People laugh, but like when I worked remote, I don't think I showered very consistently, because I was like, who's gonna smell me? And it's surprising what a shower can do for your whole psyche, right? I visualize like I'm washing away everything. I have soaps. I have like 15 soap bottles, and I just like, which one do I feel like today, right? It's an experience, and then it makes, right? I am in a space where I'm like, okay, this was good for me. Have you said something nice or done something for someone else this week? Again, that's the gratitude. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but doing something nice, right? That person loves it. You feel good too, right? So we want to spread that. It could be texting someone, hey, I miss you. Hope you're doing well. It could be sending a Venmo to someone, $5, coffee on me, whatever it is. I like to write cards. I like to write cards to my friends' kids because, one, I don't have to write a lot because they can't read. Two, I can write jokes or send them stickers. And it makes me, because they always say, we got your card. And I love it. Have you made time to do things you enjoy? How many of you say, I don't have time to do that? Or I'm too tired to do that? Or whatever. You need to make time to do things you enjoy. I had a student that I chatted with during kind of the start of the lockdown. He was my student before I left the position, and I was talking to him. He's like, I'm really struggling, Stephanie. I'm starting to forget things. I don't remember what I did. I can't find my keys usually, and it was really scary because that's not like him. And what I could tell, because he was taking 18 credits and he had 3 jobs, I was like, you are under a lot of duress, right? And I'm like, what are you doing when you're not doing all that stuff? He's like, well, I work out. And I was like, okay, well, what else? And he's like, you know what I love? He's like, this summer I worked really hard and I made enough money and I got a car. And I love my car. I love washing it, detailing, all this boring stuff. But I love this. I love it. I love taking it for a drive. And since I've come to CSU this semester, it has just sat in the parking lot and I haven't been able to take it anywhere. And I said, well, why don't you schedule a time and go for a ride, drive around? And he said, I don't have time. I have to do my homework or I have to go to work the job. And I was like, listen, I know it seems like a cost, but I'm telling you, if you took an hour to just do the things for your car, take it for a quick drive, you would feel so much better and more energized to do what you need to do, because it's how you look at it, right? He's looking at it as a cost, whereas I would look at it as an investment. As I remember having a counselor tell me that you're looking at things as a cost when it should be an investment to yourself. And I was like, hot damn. And I told him that. And he was like, okay. He ended up quitting a job, which was good. But, right, it's making time to do the things you enjoy. And it doesn't have to be a long time, but just something, right? So you talked about stitching, 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes, turn the music on. I'm going to stitch for 2 songs, right? It could be something like that. And then the last thing is, have you spent time in nature in the last 3 days? Now, that doesn't mean summiting a 14er. I'm like a baby bear when I'm outside. I like to take breaks and eat a lot of snacks when I walk and when I hike. But it just means change of scenery, right? If you've been inside, have you gone outside? Do you even know if there's sunlight outside, right? You know what I mean? Feel the weather. Just even walking to get your mail. Sometimes I do that when I go get my mail in my apartment. I'm like, this is the first time I've left my house all weekend. And then I try to take another walk around the block. So these are just simple things that you can ask yourself. The other one is the art of a micro break. Micro breaks are short, voluntary, very intentional, impromptu breaks through the day. So they are doing something with purpose. So it isn't just mindfully scrolling. It's, I'm going to answer this text that someone just texted me. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm going to answer this email. So what I would like us to do is I'd like us to practice a micro break. I'm going to give you a micro break of 2 minutes for you to do something with intention and directional activity. And then we'll come back, and I'd love for you to share with me what you did in those 2 minutes, okay? So take a 2-minute break, and with intention, so don't just be scrolling on your phone. I'm going to challenge you not to be on your phone, and come back. Okay. What did you do with your intentional micro break? I went over and got a drink of water, and I talked to Emily about times when we were not being mindful, like when you see the same commercial, and if you've only seen the beginning, but you've never seen the end. And I can't tell you when I finally watched the whole thing, I'm like, that's the commercial. Like I've always missed it. So we were connecting about that. So what did folks do in those 2 minutes? Yeah. Nice. So you responded to a message from someone. Great. I love that. Anyone else respond to a text that you got or sent a text that you needed to send? Like, I'll be late from work, or can you pick up 2 packs of, I don't know, water? I don't know, right? Anyone else? What else did anyone do? Anyone? I saw people get food. People got water. Anyone go to the bathroom? Yes. You did? Oh, awesome. That's great. Anyone else? I love that. I love that you did that. Anyone just sit there, close your eyes? I used to have students would just like put their head down, and I'd be like, that's fine. So 2 minutes, that was 2 minutes, right? You can do something. And I think what happens, Stephanie back in college would be like, I study for 10 minutes. I'm gonna take an hour break. That's not how it works, right? So micro breaks help give you that reprieve, but you're still doing something, but it's not like whatever the work is, right? So it could be like a reward, which is silly. Like I would be like, I will do this, and my reward will be vacuuming the floor. I love to vacuum. If you need me to vacuum your floor, hire me, but I'll vacuum. So it's just something like that. Almost everything will work if you unplug it, including you. So, not to sound, like those people like, get off your phone, but I'm telling this for myself too. It's good to just unplug. So I love Alice, my cat, because she makes me put my phone away, because I'm like, don't leave me. So if I'm on my phone, she will eventually get up and move. So I'll be like, okay, put the phone away, just stay here, and then she'll stay. So it's helpful for me to make sure I have that time plugged in. I've lost a lot of time scrolling and looking up things which are funny, but then all of a sudden it's like 1:30 in the morning and you still have a presentation to do. That was me yesterday, or maybe this morning. So I didn't go to bed till pretty late because of that. And I'm like, oh, I'm feeling it today. All right. So you're like, listen, lady, that's all nice, scanning and stuff, but sometimes I need help now. So here are some things that you can do when you need help now. And what that means is you are activated. You are so charged up, it's hard to focus on anything. This gives you choice. So some examples are listening to sounds. So wherever you are, you're listening to as many different sounds as possible. You're just trying to focus on that one thing. You can count to 10. You can touch something, right? So something with texture, your chair, if you have like whatever, slime, I don't know what it is. Pushing against a wall, sometimes you have a lot of pent-up energy. You're like, I want to flip this table, but I can't, but I'll push against this wall. Feeling temperature, I sometimes will grab ice. In the morning, what I've been doing is putting ice on my face, and it helps to actually like wake me up. But right, so some kind of change of temperature. If you have a hot cup of coffee, putting your hands around it will help you. Again, if you notice the bottom, it says drinking water. But because maybe you do. Maybe you need to go to the bathroom because you had to go and you forgot. 5 hours later, you're now racing for the bathroom. Right? So just trying to focus on one thing. This will help settle your mind so that you can start, thinking, doing the scanning thing we talked about or doing whatever practice you need. Because sometimes it's just hard to get into cycling if you are really activated. It's hard for me. So I'll do one of these things to get myself in a space where now I can go to my spin class. Oops. Okay. So when we were talking about coping and coping skills, there's certain things we do, right? So coping skills are a way where we manage stress, we deal with the things we don't want to deal with, where we don't want to feel. And it could be things like alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex, high-risk behavior, etc., food, eating, shopping. And what we ask you to do, what we often say in our office, is to be a fly on the wall and observe your own habits, right? With gentle judgment. This isn't to say, God, that's the 5th time you order something from Amazon today, right? That's not what it's about. What it's more is, again, moderation and how do you find balance? So if there's 7 days a week, and out of the 7 days, you have ordered something from Amazon for 6 of them, how do you the next week, you're like, you know what, let me challenge how do I not order maybe just 4 days out of the week, right? I'm just giving you an example, because nothing has ever worked where we just quit it cold turkey, right? So how do you balance and how do you find moderation? We're not here to judge what you do, we're just helping you to figure out what's the balance there. Staying connected. So we cannot go through this alone. So that's why I'm here today, to tell you about resources that we have for you all, both students and staff. Staying connected. Even the most antisocial, introverted person has one person they talk to, right? I know my ex was a gamer and he did not like people, but he loved his gaming community because you could just chat with him online, right? So having a community, staying connected, it's super important. If you're like, I don't have anyone, I will be your someone, so just stay after. I'll give you my number and I can be your someone for you, because it's important to have someone to connect with. Okay. All right, we're going to get through some resources. So for students and then folks that are interested, this is what's available for you all. So students, you all pay a student fee, and you have access to all of these resources for free. So if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to our webpage. Oftentimes for well-being and mental health, we think about counseling, which is a great tool. And just like any robust toolbox, you want to have lots of different tools. So here are all the different tools. We have groups and workshops, we have multicultural resources, 24/7 online tools, etc. So sometimes one tool may not work for you. That's fine. There are many more available. For staff, we have the Employee Assistance Program, and they have a crisis service, community mental health, etc. This is old information, I'm sorry. Don't contact that person. She doesn't work there anymore. But go to the HR website. I'll get you more updated, right? And then they can help you connect with community resources, mental health, etc. Here's some more here, too, for staff, faculty, and graduate assistants. You qualify for the Employee Assistance Program. You get 6 visits with a counselor in the community. Per issue. So if you're like, I got lots of issues, then you get lots of visits, right? And so these are the numbers. I'll send this to Emily, who'll send it to everyone. Digital tools. You at CSU, this is available at RamWeb, and for staff, this is also available for you as well. There's a staff version, which is nice. I'm on it because why not? And so you at CSU is like the Google for all of mental health well-being resources. If you want a video on mindfulness, there's one. If you want an article on how to sleep better, they have that. So there's a staff and faculty version as well as a student version. Silver Cloud is another tool that's also available for staff, faculty, and students. It's an online cognitive behavioral therapy program. The difference is that students can opt for a coach, whereas staff and faculty, it's self-guided. You can choose between any modules. It could be anxiety, depression, sleep, body image, etc. And you go through, and they're all skill-based, but then they encourage practice. There's reflection, so some journaling aspect. For students, if you offer a coach, what that means is that someone reaches out to you via messaging once a week. So it's like having a pen pal. I often tell folks, if you're not ready to go to counseling because facing someone face-to-face is daunting, this is a great alternative because you can have that accountability and have that check-in with someone, but not have to see them face-to-face. So here's how you can find it. Another cool app is called Nod. You can find it at you at CSU, wherever you get any of your apps on your phone. And it's a great app that mitigates loneliness and helps with social connection. I think it's really harder to make friends than it is to date. Because when you date, there is an expected level of rejection. The date's not gonna go well, I might get ghosted, that sucks, but right, we get that. It comes with the terrain. However, with friendship, if I see Emily and I'm like, hey, I think she's cool, you wanna get coffee? And Emily's like, no. What do you do with that rejection when someone doesn't want to be your friend, right? And so Nod helps with that in 3 ways. It provides ideas on how to foster connection, have that small talk. It also helps you to reflect those feelings. So if you're they'll ask how do you feel today? And if you're like, I feel bad, it'll help you work through that feeling of rejection. And then there's testimonials, so you know how students who work on this. Mental health support, so we have counseling services. We offer walk-ins or call appointments to make a session. I don't know what you hear about counseling. I think there are a lot of times people think like, oh, counseling, there's a huge wait or whatever. And there might be a couple weeks wait. It's very comparable to if you were to try to find someone in the community, right? So it's actually shorter. You'll never be turned away in the sense of if they don't have room to see you now, they'll work with you on what plan you can do together until you meet with someone. If you are like, I gotta meet someone now, we have a counselor on call 24/7. So we have on-call counselors. So if you go in and you're like, I need to see someone will see you. Lastly, we have a program called Rams Fail Forward. It's all about coming back from failure, right? So it teaches students, and then really anyone, of like failure, right, to change that mindset. Oh my God, what happened? Oh, to change that mindset about failure, and that it's a way for you to bounce back. So we encourage students to take a pledge and just to look up the Rams Fail Forward. This is the multicultural counseling services. So we have a dedicated team. It's for students with marginalized identities. So we have folks that are familiar with trans issues, racial issues, gender identity, etc. So this is just an example where you can find the page. I love it because it has its own page. You don't have to dig through on the website. And that is it. So there's a lot of resources out there for you to help you through your life transition. I always say transition has to take its course. It's like a kidney stone. You just got to let it pass on its own, right? So you can't rush it, and it will happen, throughout your life. But hopefully you have now there's resources out there for you all. I have some stuff on the table, some giveaways if you want to grab one. It's a bendy stick, a sticker, and then like a little quarter cardstock that gives you access to resources. Before you leave, I would love it if you could provide feedback. It's how we get better. This presentation actually came out of feedback. So my name is Stephanie, and the presentation was called Self-Care Through Transitions. If you liked it, great. If you didn't like it, tell me why. Don't just say it sucked, but be specific so we can make changes. And I just appreciate your time. This is not an easy topic talk about, but it's got to be talked about, right? Because we're feeling it. It's heavy. It's hard. And you're not alone. We have stuff out here for you. We want to help. And with that, here's the resources. But that's it. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn over to Emily for some last minute things, or for some things, but thank you so much.
Put that feedback back up there, just for. Stephanie, thank you. You definitely got my brain churning a little bit. What we're gonna do now is, if anyone has questions for Stephanie, if you wanna grab a drink, use the bathroom, fill out that feedback form, we're gonna give you 7 minutes. So at the 45, I want you butts back in seats, please. So come back at the 45. Thank you. Lee. Back on for 7 minutes of music. Yes.
I am lost, I am vain, I will like to plug in your power, or do you think you'll be fine?
You know, you never know with this, so
Yeah.
let's go pop.
Let's do it. There we go. Just refresh.
We're 1,000 miles from comfort. We have traveled land and sea. But as long as you are with me, there's no place I'd rather be. I would away forever, exalted in the sea. As long as I am with you, my heart continues to beat. With every step we take, Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same, gave you another name, switch up the batteries. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Knowing the little hope you can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. We set out on a mission to find our inner peace, make it everlasting, so nothing's incomplete. It's easy being with you, sacred simplicity. As long as
All right, come back in one more minute. 1 minute.
there's no place I'd rather be. With every step we take, Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same, gave you another name, switch up the batteries. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Knowing the little hope you can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. Yeah.
All right, we're going to come back. Lee, cut the music.
Okay.
thank you for being such a great audience for Stephanie. It's great when we can have facilitators come in and talk about the things that they do every day and the ways that resources can be really helpful for us. I am not a big believer in doing trainings and then doing nothing with it, right? So our hope and the feedback is that the things that were talked about today could really be of use and benefit. I also want to recognize, so raise your hand if you've worked in operations, I don't know, 2 weeks or less. Cool. You might have come in and been like, what are we doing? I don't even know these people. We're talking about transitions. We're talking about change. Like, this is bananas. And that's totally okay. We recognize you. We see you. Thank you for being here. And hopefully you got something out of it. So we're going to do it a little bit backwards because we do want you to meet a couple people while you're here, right? So we've fed you, we've given you some information, and we would love for you to get to know one another a little bit. So what we're going to do is we are going to go through a round of, what's it called? We're just going to get up and meet some people and answer some questions. I'm not going to call it anything weird or whatnot, but I'm guessing, I know that I saw at least 5 to 8 hands. So my guess is that not everyone here knows one another. I bet our painters don't know our environmental services staff. I bet our carpenters don't know our whatever it is, right? Like meet and mingle, etc. And I know you're like, oh, she's gonna force me to mingle. You're right, I am. And hopefully it won't be too bad. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you a couple different prompts, but I want you to stand if you are able. Now, stand if you are able. Come on. Come on, come on. Nice, thank you. See, Marissa's started. She's good. Pushing in the table. Okay, I want you to go at least to one other table that's yours. So like Marissa might go to that one in the back, and then Tamina might come up here. And I want you to mingle for like 15 seconds. Go. Just mingle around. Come on, roam around, roam around. While you are roaming, this is going to be the question. Okay, pause. Whoever you're next to, that's right. Whoever you're next to, just introduce yourself. All right, up here, one more time. Look at me. So I want you to introduce yourself. If applicable, share what area you work in. If you just had a shift together, you probably know, right? But introduce yourself. And then I want you to identify a favorite gift that you've ever received or given to someone. Okay, you have 2 minutes. Go. And why? And why? Okay, we're halfway through, so if you're 4 people, hurry up. Okay, finish up your statement. Thank your partner and mingle. Mingle, 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 mingle. 10 seconds. Mingle, mingle, mingle. Mingle, mingle. Okay. And pause. You know the drill. Introduce yourself, area that you work in. And where is a place you call home and one thing you love about it? Where is a place you call home and one thing you love about it? A minute and a half, go. Man, you 4 people, you're ambitious. I like it. More than halfway through? 20 more seconds? Okay, finish your statement, thank your partner, and mingle. Mingle, continue, mingle on. Mingle, mingle, mingle. I feel like we're finding some safety in 4. I want no more than 3. No more than 3 people. And pause. Whoever you're here, say hello. This is my favorite. What is something that is currently on your to-do list or whatever you use? Like, right, what's a paper that you have to do or that house thing you have to do or whatever. What is something that's currently on your to-do list? And introduce yourself if you don't know each other. Go, 1 minute. Fifteen seconds. All right. Thank you, partners. Say goodbye and mingle. If you are in the front, go to the back. If you are to the right, go to the left. Really mix it up. Keep walking until I say stop. Keep walking. Keep moving. Keep shaking. Whatever that is. Keep moving. Okay, pause. All right, find a buddy. One buddy. Buddy, buddy, buddy. Find a buddy. We've got one over here. Yes. There we go. Okay. Your prompt is share someone you want to meet, dead or alive, and why. Oh, I know. It's all like, ooh, who do I want to meet? You can have a minute to think about this, right? Really think about someone you want to meet, dead or alive, and why. Ten seconds. All right. Get quiet when you're done talking. I'm curious. Can I have like 3 people tell me who they want to meet? Who? Why? That's true. Sharing the brilliance of science. And sounds like an inspiration. Awesome. What else? Who else? Who else? Johnny Cash. Yes. What's a question you would ask Johnny Cash? I bet he'd have some good answers. Nice. One more. Give me one more. Van Gogh. Oh. Why did he cut his ear off? I bet he could have benefited from a presentation like this, though, right? I mean, tortured creative souls, right? I mean, like we could get into that. That's a great one. Okay. All right. So I want you, if you are in a group of 2, I want you to find another group of 2. I want you to become a group of 4. Group of 4. Find a group of 4. If you're already in a group of 4, you're cheaters. Just kidding. Just kidding. Group of 4. If you're with 2, that works. That works. Yep. Okay. Great, great, great. All right. Now is the time that we're going to start putting what we've learned to practice. So this is hopefully this looks fairly familiar, right? This is our W curve that they talked about. Now, based on how long you've been on this position or just what you're experiencing and how Stephanie talked about it, each of you share, where are you in the W curve? Where are you in the W curve? Is this brand new? Do you feel like you know some things? Is there adjustment? You have 3 minutes for this. Go. Thirty more seconds. All right, start wrapping up. Quiet when you're done. I want your group of 4 to 2 people to turn outward and meet the other 2 people. So make another group of 4. So 2 of you stick together. I see over here. They like turn to the wall. They're like, nope, oh, there's no one there. So shift around if you need, right? We got the mingle around. Find your group of 4. Join a group, bring in. Great, okay. So we talked about self-kindness, and I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm like, self-kindness, I don't know. I want you to think about someone you really care about and a way that you are kind to them, right? Ooh, oh. And then I want you to shift that kindness. What is a way that you are kind to someone else that you could probably stand to be more kind to yourself? I'm going to give you 4 minutes for this one. Maybe 3. 3 minutes, go. There are some ideas up on the slide. Okay, wrap up your conversation. When you finished up, get quiet. Okay. The last one, I'm gonna keep you all in these groups, right, to just dig a little deeper, right, since we've talked about kindness in this one. Stephanie talked about things you can do in the moment if you are overwhelmed, if you need help right now, if you just need a pause or that mini break or whatever. Identify one of those things, choose one that you had not considered before, and if you could see incorporating it. So what of this list or something else could you see doing if you need like a break in the moment? Got it? Okay, go. 2 minutes. Oh, it cut off go to the bathroom. I liked that one. Go to the bathroom. All right. If you have finished your conversation, please thank your conversation partners and go have a seat back at the table that you were at. So I want to thank you for doing that. I know it can feel a little hokey. It can feel a little uncomfortable for folks, especially I probably stretched my introverts beyond their comfort zone, way beyond. And I recognize that, right? And there are some things that we really recognize. So 80% of the time I'm remote and 20% of the time I'm on site. And so it's wonderful to have a reminder of the things that you can't, what is the word I'm looking, like there's no substitution, right? And so sometimes it can be a benefit to find ourselves in a room with people that we do similar tasks or are on a similar staff with, and just take a moment to figure out like who is this person, right? We know that the quality of work life that you have is really important to us. It's really important that you know that the work that you do is invaluable to the Lory Student Center. This place could not and would not run without you all. And so to ensure that maybe in some little way you take away just one nugget of today's training. Maybe you leave and you're like, nothing about this was helpful. And if that's the feedback you have, you absolutely get to have that. But then you won't, when Stephanie talked about going through those changes and those transitions, right? The change being something that happens to you, and the transition being that emotional process that we go through to acclimate to that change. We've all been through that in some way, shape, or form in the past year. And so there's some of that is a human connection, and we want to see you as human beings, right? You're humans first, your students second, for the students who are applicable in the room. And the expectations that we have for the work that you all do, we understand are really important, and to lean on each other as a team, right? To communicate when you can, to share with your managers and supervisors when there might be something going on. So there are resources that we can get you connected to. I really want to thank you for today. I want to also thank the leadership of operations for supporting the work that you all do and the trainings that we have. You are one of a few staff members or staff groups who have these concentrated times once a semester that get together, get to know one another, and share some resources. So as far as sharing resources, what will happen is the slides that Stephanie shared will go out via email to the folks who clocked in and who were here today. We will have a recording of the session that will be available to everyone if you either want to share it out, and definitely for the folks who weren't able to be here with us today. And so our challenge is to continue to keep this material alive, to not let it die as soon as it walks out the room, right? So talk about it with one of your colleagues, or bring it up in conversation, or share it with your supervisor, or whatever that means and that looks like. We want you to use the training and the concepts and the resources that we have for you, because especially to the students, a lot of your student fees go to some of the resources that can support you during these times of challenge. So thank you. Anything I'm looking to my supervisors, my folks, any other needs or announcements before we let you go a little early? Everyone loves that, right? No. That's fair, that's fair. For those of you who get to just go right to work, thank you for your service. So please, we hope you were clocked in for this time. Make sure that all that food is gone, right? So grab the food as you are on your way out. We paid for it, and we want to make sure that you benefit from it. Also, my very last thing is that we have these little stickers, right? These RAM stickers to remind that you all contribute to the place that we belong, right? You all contribute to the Lory Student Center, and so we have these up here. I'll go pass them around at the tables too. But this was put on by the SHAPE initiative, which is the training and talent development aspect of the Lory Student Center. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Tamina.